Hey, this is Jim McDonald. Welcome to episode 199 of the PowerCast. This episode features a guest who has also appeared on the Joe Rogan Experience. And we've had a handful of those over the course of the run of the show, which is really cool for me personally because Joe Rogan's show was one of the ones I was looking at when I was trying to figure out what we could get away with in creating this one. And the answer is quite a bit, actually. Kyle Kingsbury is a former UFC fighter, MMA guy. He actually has a history with a bunch of the same people that we know. And he actually has been training at CSA in Dublin, California with Jesse Burdick. And he's appeared on a bunch of podcasts in our segment, the health, fitness, nutrition segment. So I'm not sure exactly why we hadn't had him on before. And now he's moved to Las Vegas, but I'm sure that we can get him back at some point. Anyway, he is very interested in life extension and physical optimization and mind expansion, I would say as well. But primarily what we talked about was training, powerlifting, how he trained for MMA, what it was like in his career coming up, and some of the issues that face fighters who are under contract with the UFC, and actually some of the details of a lawsuit that he's involved with UFC. As I said, he's since moved to LA, to Las Vegas, but it would be great to have him back at some point because it was such a fun conversation talking to him. We will be back next week with episode 200. Our guest is Jason Khalipa, and we will have a Compex giveaway that will be, the details of which will be run down in this segment next week. So if you're not watching this segment, you're not going to get it. There's no chance to win. We'll see you next week. Support for this episode of the PowerCast comes from 8-Man Apparel. Apparel for people who lift heavy weights at 8manstrong.com. Compex Muscle Stim products at CompexUSA.com. Use the code PowerCast and get 28% off all but the lowest price model. HowMuchYouBench.net, home of Mark Bell's Slingshot. Bench heavy with no pain with Mark Bell's Slingshot. And Bodybuilding.com. Bodybuilding.com is the world's largest fitness website and supplement store. Bodybuilding.com has free plans for every level. Visit Bodybuilding.com today to become your best self.
Recorded live in West Sacramento, California, this is Mark Bell's PowerCast. This week's guest, former UFC fighter Kyle Kingsbury. Standing just to the left of Jim McD, here's your host, Mark Bell.
We're in.
Yeah, we're in. Yeah. No intro anymore, or at least not for now.
All right. Well, say something.
Welcome.
Intro us, Jesse Burdick. Why don't you start this off?
Welcome to the Mark Bell Podcast.
Woo!
Along Jim McD, here's your host, Mark Smelly Bell.
Hey now.
All right.
Hey, all right. We're here today with Jesse Burdick and Kyle Kingsbury.
The
Ladies and gentlemen.
Royal Kingsbury.
The royalty. That's right. Kingsbury, that's a beautiful ring you got there. What's going on with that thing?
Well, this is a little something Ben Greenfield set me up with. It's called the Aura Ring.
What does it do for
you? It has
you?
nothing to do with my aura, my resonating energy field. But yeah, it does heart rate variability and different things like that. Pretty much, it's like a fitness tracker. But the real reason I wear it is because it maps my sleep.
There's fucking technology in that thing?
Yeah, it has infrared sensors that actually look into
What's happening now? Are we in the future?
arteries. Yeah,
I'm
it's
confused.
It's like a biofeedback machine, kind of like the next version or next wave of kind of the Omega Wave system, or
so confused
HRV
right now.
type of stuff.
Yeah, it's badass. Leave it on, charge it every 2 days.
Are you
syncs
telling
to the
us
iPhone?
That you're a cyborg?
I'm trying.
Cybernetic organism?
I'm trying to be half
Are
man,
you
half
from the
machine.
future?
The only reason we can see that he's human is the shorty shorts.
Oh my god!
Machines couldn't couldn't
Machines
sport
ain't
this
got legs
stuff.
like that.
That's doing it.
No, they don't.
It's got to take a long time to shave legs like that.
Oh, you can't see, but it's actually quite hairy.
Oh, okay.
You know, it's like I get to a few months before when I was fighting, I'd always have to shave for the fight, that kind of thing. I'd shave all camp to be used to it. But
You gotta be all slippery.
Since retiring, it's pretty much whenever Natasha gets upset and says, well, I guess we're just growing it all out, aren't we? Because I can't trim the legs without trimming the bush. So
That's right.
when the bush gets a little too much, then it's like, hey,
Just
dude,
get carried away,
let's go.
start shaving everything.
Yeah, let's just take
Is
a
it
run
frowned
through.
upon in MMA to not shave?
I don't know. I've seen some pretty hairy dudes. Remember that guy?
But if you're in between, you have some scruff, it can kind of be like sharp a little bit, right?
That Pee Wee Herman dude. He got in trouble from Dana because he dyed all of his body hair black for a fight. You remember that? He looked like a fucking werewolf. It was so badass.
I do remember somebody wore like inappropriate shorts and they were stretching all weird.
And the giant,
And then Dana like
well,
paid.
the problem was he had a wardrobe malfunction. I think his ball came out. It was Dennis Hallman, I think.
Yeah.
So after that, no Speedos.
Yeah.
But if you remember, everyone wore Speedos back in the day. And
Ken
MMA first,
Shamrock.
Ken Frank did.
Yeah.
My first 9 fights were at heavyweight, and I wore Speedos. I think in half of them.
God bless you.
They were great. The old bad boy trunks had a little eyeball set on the
You
side
get
of my
paid
butt.
extra by someone to do that?
No, I got paid $100 a fight and barely had sponsors my first 5 fights. So.
Oh my God.
A couple pairs of socks down the old front there.
Yeah,
And
maybe I was hoping somebody would throw me an extra Speedo, but it never happened.
Damn.
Sock sponsors, anything.
Anything.
How'd you get started in the fight game?
Well, I finished up football at ASU and was just lifting weights and running. But, I was doing that without a coach and shit. And really,
Right.
I missed that physical interaction, the human interaction, and engaging with people. And I'd fought a lot growing up, but I didn't want to fight professionally. I had no ambitions of doing that. And so I just started
Just got in
training.
random fights?
Well, I started, I fought a lot.
Full of piss and vinegar, maybe?
Pretty much. Well, I was super tall and skinny growing up. So a lot of the older kids would pick on me, like, hey, punk, that kind of shit.
Guys
and
like this. Guys like Jesse. Jesse's a prick.
Yeah. And then I'd be backed in a corner and end up fighting them. But, I really enjoyed that because it's like you're fucking completely dialed in. You're 100% in the moment.
Right.
And I'd come out on top most of the time. So that was a good feeling too, so I wasn't getting my ass kicked. But, just started training in mixed martial arts. And then there was a guy out in Arizona who ran like a small local promotion. He was like, yo, you're big, you're good looking. You should fight at heavyweight. And I was like,
hitting on you?
yeah, I don't know. He might have been. He really might have been.
How much you weigh, bro?
Yeah. He was like, just
Come back here.
Whoa,
Just that's
Hey, wow.
yeah.
Whoa,
Yeah.
like
You need you're kind of
put on
tense.
these
Really good.
shorts
You're
and-
kind of tense. Can I give you a massage? No, it wasn't that bad. He told me, fight, get your feet wet. If you like it, you can keep going. If you don't like it, you never have to do it again. And I thought, all right, one fight's no big deal. And my first 2 fights, I won in under 30 seconds.
Damn.
So from there, I was fucking completely hooked.
Yeah.
That's a thrill I'd never experienced in team sports, especially playing defensive line. You get like a sack or 2 in a game,
Right.
and it's like, oh, I'm the fucking
Yeah,
man. I
yeah.
got 2 sacks.
Right,
like
right.
the crowd cheers for you for like all of 2 plays, and other than that, you go unnoticed. So it was pretty cool.
What'd you do in those first 2 fights? Just come out like a wild man, just start swinging?
It was knees to the belly. I had about 3 months of Muay Thai training. And I was still strong from football and everything and lifting weights, so I had a lot of power and explosiveness, and
Right.
really it was just the athleticism because I didn't know shit about martial arts at that point.
Right.
So you could call it luck, but I mean at that level, I wouldn't call it luck just because I had no experience. I really had no training, and I was fighting guys with a decent amount of fights. So
Anderson Silva and Bones Jones, I mean, they kind of have a similar physique to yourself. Why do you think that physique has become so ideal in MMA?
Well, the thing that makes them special in their completely different styles, but, well, I shouldn't say completely different. They both have a high level of striking in Muay Thai.
Right.
But I would say that they know how to use their weapons very well. They know how to use their length and their reach. Anderson's so fast. I mean, when I was on The Ultimate Fighter, Nogueira brought him on as a guest coach, and he was
Right.
supposed to be there for a day. He ended up staying for 2 weeks.
He doesn't really appear fast. He appears like more fluid when you're watching on
Yeah,
TV and stuff.
yeah. I've never seen somebody move that fast in person in my life to this day. He had a game where he would stick a flip-flop in your shorts, and each guy would have one, and you couldn't use hands. You just kick each other.
Right.
But the goal was to take the other guy's flip-flop with your feet. So you could slap, right? So
Yeah.
he was slapping the shit out of guys. And then he would just jab him in the stomach with a push kick and yank it out with his toes, and nobody could touch this guy. Like you couldn't even touch him with your hands.
crazy.
He was incredible.
So you think having that reach and stuff can be an advantage in MMA to some
I
extent?
think so,
if you know how
but,
to use it.
It's just really about knowing yourself. I mean, you look at a guy like Yoel Romero, who's pretty short and stout.
Stocky, yeah.
He's stocky, but I
all
mean,
traps.
he's a fucking brick shithouse. Like you saw, like he did to Weidman, and Weidman's phenomenal.
Yeah.
He's one of the best middleweights in the world. And he did great. He came out in the 3rd round. He still had all kinds of explosiveness and pop. Hit him with the flying knee,
Right.
and that was game over.
Yep.
Like he was completely out. So, and they're a complete opposite. I think Yoel Romero and my old teammate Luke Rockhold would be a fantastic fight down the road.
So fun to see.
You do like a keto style diet, is that correct?
I've done ketosis. Let's see. I got into it a couple years ago when I retired, and really dove into it. And I wanted to help heal the brain. Obviously, I took quite a bit of damage in my fight career, fighting big boys. Had this eye fractured twice, my jaw broken in 2 places.
Jesus Christ.
So I wanted to heal the brain, and there's a lot of research on how it can benefit you cognitively. And it was more about that than anything else. And I really got a lot from that. But
So
I've not been
it can actually help with like repairing the brain and not just further damage. It can actually help.
Yeah, there's
heal
a
it to some
couple
extent.
of ways. I mean, we know just from anecdotal N=1 that you can think more clearly and have a little bit more cognitive energy.
Right.
But the more they look into it scientifically, they're seeing how it affects the GABA pathway and things like that, and can have a relaxing effect, help you sleep deeper, help you heal more, those kind of things. And I think over time they'll see this is really a beneficial thing for the brain. But I haven't been in ketosis since April. So, and I've that's just
You're
from
off
reading,
the team.
reading more. I am off the team. I may get back into it at some point, but there's a couple things I was reading. I follow Rob Wolf in the Paleo Solution podcast, and he was talking about the pros and cons of ketosis, and he co-authored a 4-piece thing with Dr. Dominic D'Agostino, who I think the world of. He's one of the leading
he's
researchers.
genius,
That
Genius
name keeps
dude.
ringing around here.
He's a bad dude.
He's
yeah.
everything he writes is phenomenal.
Yeah, and one of the things that really
Strong
drew me to
guy,
him
too.
was, he's strong as fuck. Most guys who are doing the ketogenic diet, they're like ultra marathon guys doing the Western States 100, that kind of shit.
Right.
I don't want to look like that. I don't want to do that,
Right.
But Dominic D'Agostino, he had fasted for 7 days.
Right.
On day 7, deadlifts 500 for 10 reps, pulls 585 for a single, and then goes and gives a lecture in front of 300 people on the
Right.
benefits of fasting and ketosis. And like he had
That'll do it.
not only the physical strength to do
Right.
that, but the mental wherewithal to go and drop tons of knowledge to a large group of people.
Yeah.
And still had no food in him.
Right.
So there's a lot to that. But what Rob was getting at in the article was, depending on what you do, there are pros and cons to it.
Right.
And because I like jujitsu still, they call it the gentle art. I don't get hit in the head. I still have that human interaction.
Right.
That's something I'll do the rest of my life.
Oh,
and then powerlifting. I mean, I have no delusions of grandeur about being a legit powerlifter. My lifetime goals for bench,
How is he as a
squat, and
powerlifter,
deadlift.
Jesse Burdick?
He's great. I mean, he's one of the most fun athletes to have kind of come in the gym. Everybody loves him, and he's just happy, hardworking, and I mean, he's got a really good pedigree. Going to ASU, he got to train under House and Uwe.
And Uwe, yeah.
He already
he-
has good genetics.
He already
as well,
and
yeah.
he's got
handsome as fuck. Can't help it.
that doesn't hurt at all. Your deadlift
Looks good in short
especially
shorts. And
looks good in
so
short
a
shorts and
singlet
tights.
thing would make sense. Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, it's just how it all comes down to. I mean, something that's really amazing about Kyle is when you really start to learn about him. Like he was a walk-on at ASU,
Right.
and he got picked. And House always tells a story. Like he was the one who took the walk-ons and put them through hell. And the last person standing, they were like, "Let's flip a coin." And he was the last person standing, and he always talks about you and your buddy just like tapped out about like 5 minutes in. You had to do walking lunges across the
We had to
field.
do 100 yards of walking lunges.
Oh my god.
And that was straight. Then we had to do backwards. Then we had to do 45-degree walking lunges.
Oh my God.
Off to the side. So now you're doubling the length basically because you're not getting the same length forward.
Jesus Christ.
And that was before we ran our 40s for time. It was comical. I must have run a fucking 10-second 40. It was pure comedy.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until the drills they set up cone drills for things like that. And my buddy had been a wrestler at ASU, and he was pretty yoked, but he had no ability to cut. Like he didn't know which feet to plant. And I played
Right.
football since Pop Warner when I was 10 years old. So I knew like, hey, I'm going to be slow, but I'm going to take the right steps. And so my times ended up being the best in the group for the situational things. And but more than that, it was just about like, I'm not giving up and I'm fucking going to do this,
And I think that kind of continues on into kind of the MMA career, and then further into jiu-jitsu, and then powerlifting. It's about hard work, figuring out what you can figure out, correct it, and kind of keep moving on, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, what we were talking about it on the way up, where Kyle was in an interesting time during MMA, where it kind of went from brawler to a true sport. and it, just everyone's ability is heightened so much. It went from just swing until someone drops all the way to one trick ponies to 2 and 3 trick ponies, and now
and the athletes too. Like you got to know all these things,
there.
But also you've got all these really fast, really smart guys who are paying attention to nutrition. They're paying attention to training regimens and plyometrics and everything that make you complete, as an NFL football player does.
Right. Yeah. You're seeing them now become true professionals.
Right.
Yeah.
They're taking an entire day, 10, 12-hour training days. Basically, is kind of what's happening, right? 2-3 sessions a day is very typical of an MMA athlete, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And you're at AKA most of your career, right?
Yeah, I started in Arizona, and Bader and the guys hadn't had their own gym at that point when I left. But I talked to House, and he was like, "Yo, Kingsbury, you got to make your way up to San Jose." He's like, that Cain Velasquez guy, the fucking heavyweight wrestler, he's out there. He's going to be the best. You got to train with that guy
too, right?
Yeah. He was wrestling at ASU when I was playing football.
It's really interesting. I don't know what the fuck Coach House does to people. If he just breaks them down or what he does, but he's got this like laundry list of awesome people, including the 4-time world's strongest man, Brian Shaw, under his tutelage, guys like yourself. I mean, the list kind of goes on, and then other great coaches that have come from being assistant coaches with him and stuff. The list goes on and on. What does he do? What does he just kick everybody's ass or demand
I think
respect?
Honestly, if I put it into one bullet point about House, what House did for me was he pushed me beyond what I thought I was capable of, and he did that many times and time again. And throughout I only had 2 years with him because I came from junior college.
Right.
But in that 2 years, like I bought in fucking full go, and I became an iron hat winner. You get the award if you're there more than everyone else in the weight room.
Right. Oh, that's cool.
And like it's one thing if you put in the work and you don't see results, that's a little disheartening. But when you're training with somebody who knows what they're doing, it's easy to get gains, and that becomes something that you gravitate towards. Just being a better athlete, being stronger, being more physical, being faster, all these things that I was getting from House. But more than anything, when I got into fighting, I could look back and know, like, whatever I think my limit is, there's something higher than that, and that's something he gave me.
You could always go a little bit further in training, huh?
Yeah.
When I just talked to him recently, I went down to the URSA show down in L.A., and he was telling me about Shaw, and he called him Gigantor.
Gigantor, yeah.
And he said he's got all these videos of Brian before Brian even came there, where you can't see Brian because his head is off the screen. It's like,
that's right. That was
it's
his,
like deadlifting, and the camera is set up, on a tripod, and so Brian's so big that his head would go off screen.
That was like his interview video of like why he should come to ASU and why he was going to be kind of the strength coach. I remember that story. That was great.
And so they called him Gigantor, but Brian would always tell House, he would say, "I'm going to be world's strongest man one day," and House would be like, "That's fucking great. Go over there and do some push-ups. Go over there and get these, lead this group through squats or whatever." He'd be like, "Shut the fuck up. Go mop the floor," whatever it was he was making him do. So it's pretty cool that he demands that much respect from so many different great athletes over the years. What do you got going on with that fanny pack? I saw you walked in with this insane fanny pack.
This is my downsized fanny pack, courtesy of Joe Rogan. I don't know. Here's the camera right there. Yeah. So I guess the story behind
Joe
this.
Rogan personalized a fanny pack for you?
Yeah, man. It's got
amazing.
the thinking ape on there.
Oh, yeah.
The chimp with the light bulb over his head.
That.
Yeah, it's badass.
That's powerful.
These are actually, they're not cheap. It's genuine leather, but I was still going to buy one. And they're always sold out. So obviously, when I went on a show, he had one waiting for me.
There you go.
That's amazing.
Is that a thing for all of his guests? They get a fanny pack?
I don't think so.
No, just the special ones?
Yeah, exactly.
There you go.
They get a mug. I get the fanny pack.
Yeah. Does this have anything to do with the short shorts? Because you can't hold that much in the short shorts.
It doesn't matter what I have on, whether it's pants, whether I'm at Jesse's wedding. I always got the fanny pack.
It's true.
That's how it goes.
Now, you used to have levels. You had the fancy one that you would wear to event. Then you had the everyday one.
So the fancy one came from Kane's wife. She knew I was going to his wedding, and she was like, "You can't wear that shitty fanny pack at the wedding." And I was like, "Why? I'm not even in the wedding." She's like, "I don't care." And
not wearing no $40 fanny pack.
She got me a
Jesse's wedding.
She got me a nice leather fanny pack, but it's funny because I've been a groomsman in weddings, and the wife's like, "No fanny pack," and I just spin that thing around and tuck it underneath, and it looks like I have a little bustier, like a 19 or 1800s woman, with the big ass.
Yeah, damn, that guy's got some glutes going.
Junk in the trunk. Check out Kingsbury.
Look at the shelf.
Nice.
So what you doing now? Because you can only do MMA for so long. So what are you up to nowadays?
Nowadays, still training, like I said, doing the powerlifting and jiu-jitsu. I got a little kid that I'm with quite a bit. He's going to turn 2 in May with the wife.
Awesome.
Yeah, lots of fun.
And what's his name?
Bear Soul Kingsbury.
I love Bear's name. I have Casey Bear, and like when I was talking to Tasha, I was like, oh, I have a bear too. And then I always thought that was his nickname for a little while, and it was like, oh, what's, I was like, yeah, Casey Bear. And she's like, oh, is that her real name? I was like, no, it's like a nickname. She goes, oh no, our bear's for real. And I was like, oh yeah, that is right. You only do call. There's no other actual name, but Bear's awesome.
It is Bear. Yeah. And the second one will be Wolf. We're gonna get started on Wolf in a couple months here.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, hopefully we can plant that seed.
Yeah, the practice is always the best part of it. Right?
So the last time when House was out here for Super Bowl, we had kind of a big meathead meetup. His staff, Uwe's staff, everybody kind of came out and we deadlifted. At my place, Mark came down.
Deadlift party.
It was awesome. I distinctly remember, because what do they used to call it at ASU? Grizz. So their House is saying like, oh, Grizz used to be this big badass motherfucker and all this other shit. Because now you got a kid and you planted a seed under an avocado tree and all this other stuff. And one of the greatest responses I ever heard. He goes, absolutely, I did, Coach House. And one of these days, I'm gonna invite you over for an avocado, for a guacamole, and you're gonna fucking love that shit.
We put Bear's placenta underneath the avocado tree. I had worked with a shaman out in Colombia doing some of the plant medicines, and I told him, my wife's pregnant. And he said, like, oh, cool. You're gonna take the placenta and you put it under a tree you like, and preferably, preferably a fruit tree.
Right.
And then Bear can eat that, and it's going to be really nutrient dense, and it'll help him out in life. And I was like, all right, that sounds cool, So yeah, we posted that video of me handling my wife's placenta.
I saw it on. I saw it on Instagram.
And I was spreading it out so everybody could see.
Yeah, it looks like a bloody squid or something.
Yeah, it's quite fibrous, like a little stronger than I thought it would be.
So you did have some of it.
Well, here's the deal. As I've learned through the little bit of gardening that I've done, if you take fresh horse manure, they call it hot manure, right? You got to wait a certain amount of time for the nitrogen levels to go down.
Right.
Same goes for a placenta. So I should have put that thing in the ground, waited about 6 months, then put the tree on top. But because I put it in hot, the tree keeps losing its leaves. It's got too much. It's a little imbalanced. So we'll probably have fruit on there in like 3 or 4 more years.
There we go.
Are you trying to say your wife's placenta is too powerful?
It is quite powerful. I think that's what it boils down to.
That's what's happening.
Yeah.
How'd you make the decision to retire?
Man, there was so much that went with that. Obviously, the guys get paid peanuts, and not just, a lot of people think like, you're a pro athlete, you want more money. I mean, I've been living in my mom's garage for the last 6 years, and while I was fighting professionally, I had a second job. I was working at, bartending and bouncing at a pseudo strip club where the girls got to stay in bikinis. But, weighing that in, like having to work 23 hours on the weekend, getting home at 3:30 a.m., getting up first thing in the morning and grinding again through 2 or 3 practices, it takes its toll. And really the damage I was taking in fights too. It's not like I was fighting at 135 pounds. Man, I had big dudes hitting me in the face. This eye's been fractured twice, like I said, broken the jaw in 2 places, among other injuries. Like
and
a
at your
slap tear
height,
on the
you
shoulder.
really don't have a choice but to be at least this body weight, right? I mean, you can't really...
Yeah, I was a heavyweight in the first part of my career, but you look at a guy like Kane, I mean, nobody beat my ass worse than Kane in training. Nobody on earth. There was no fight, even Glover Teixeira, which was a brutal loss. Nothing compared to the beatings I took from Kane. So, like, there was really no option to fight at heavyweight, knowing that guy stands at the top, plus is the teammate, that I'm not going to fight that guy. So, it just made sense. Plus, around the time that I made a decision to cut to 205, you had Brock Lesnar, you had Shane Carwin, guys that were cutting to 265.
Yeah.
So you're fighting a 280-pound man.
Yeah, they made like special gloves for Shane Carwin.
Yeah, I walk around at like 230, maybe 235 if I'm carved up. But it just made sense. Let me get lean. Let me focus on that. Let me cut the water. I had cut weight before in wrestling, and really being fascinated by the science of things like that, picking everyone else's brain.
Right.
I was able to dial in my weight cuts pretty good. But it made sense. And then training at AKA, Bob Cook, my manager, came to me and was like, hey, man, they got a spot on The Ultimate Fighter Season 8 for 205. Can you make it? And Bobby Southworth, He had fought on Ultimate Fighter 1. He was a teammate of mine. He was Strikeforce light heavyweight champ. He was like, "You're going to fight at 205. I can get you there." And so he really took me under his wing and helped me get the weight down.
Didn't we know a guy who was on Ultimate Fighter 1?
Yeah, that was Chris Sanford.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I think he actually lost the first fight
he was
to
the first guy out,
Josh Koscheck.
Okay,
yeah, the first
I remember
thing.
him.
Yeah, he's an MMA manager at this point.
So you get your first couple fights, and you said you make $100 or whatever, $50, whatever it might be. There's not much of a crowd, but then you start to have more opportunities. You start to win some fights, and things are looking up, and you get on the UFC TV show, correct?
Yeah, so I made it to 5-0 in Rage in the Cage out in Arizona. Got a contract with King of the Cage, which was considered, the next level. Fought there, had success. I took my first loss at King of the Cage, and then I realized I'm not getting the training that I need. And my coach even pulled me aside. My striking coach was a phenomenal dude. And he's like, "Look, you need more. You need other coaches that know jiu-jitsu, know the wrestling. You need teammates that can push you." Because I was training with guys that were half my size, And I remembered House saying, you got to go to AK. You got to go out to San Jose and train with Kane. And so being from the Bay Area, I trained a little bit at AK when I was a kid with a buddy of mine just because we did football and wrestling together and didn't do a spring sport. So it was like, hey, let's do this to stay in shape. And Frank Shamrock was the coach there. Jesus. And so it was cool, and from that time when I was 17 years old to I think 26 when I got into fighting, or 26 when I went back home, yeah. And they had, Josh Koscheck, Mike Swick, John Fitch.
Jesus.
Kane was there. He was relatively unknown, but everybody, I knew him from school. I knew he was a badass. Paul Bointello, Mike Kyle, all these guys who had fought at a high level. I remember Paul fighting Andrei Arlovsky for the heavyweight championship in the UFC. So there was just a plethora of really good big guys and really good lighter guys, and they had a good chemistry, and being that's where my family was, it just made perfect sense to move home and start training there.
What was that like training there, like on a daily basis? Going in there for a visit, or as you said, training there as a kid, that's kind of one thing, but then switching gears, now you're a pro fighter, and now you're training there with the big boys.
Well, it was a little bit, I had to hit the ground running, because I hadn't had a high level of training prior to that. And even though I was 7-1, I just was not accustomed to training with a guy like Kane, and he really pulled me up to his level. I always think of the analogy like, in boot camp, a guy can't jump the wall, but his teammate's up on top of the wall. He reaches down, grabs him, and pulls him over.
Right.
Many times Kane did that for me, and including hand speed and working on kicks and the variety, seeing his development as a striker improved my development as a striker.
We always talk about his conditioning being just on another level.
It was obnoxious. I mean, even when I was in shape, he would, for a 5-round fight, they would rotate 5 guys in, and we would spend not the full 5 minutes with him. We'd do half rounds and get to come out, and we'd still get gassed. Yeah. Doing every other half round, not even a full round, you know. And I thought of it as like a huge feather in my cap when I could do 3 full 5-minute rounds with him. And not, and I'd be spent by the end, but at least if I could keep my hands up in the third, I know I had gotten to a certain level of cardio to hang with him.
Being an athlete for so long and stuff, what do you think that is? Do you think it's just, maybe he was born with it in combination of him wrestling at a young age, or like what the fuck is that?
I don't know, man. Maybe he's got a lot of descendants from Mexico City at altitude or something, but he has lungs like nobody else. I mean, I've never trained with a heavyweight like that, that has that kind of cardio.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just a phenomenal athlete.
You must have been around some other freaks. You got some. What's the biggest freak that you've seen in the sport in terms of like athleticism?
Oh man, pure athleticism. I don't know. It's kind of hard. I got to train with so many great guys. Daniel Cormier, obviously, when he came in. Luke Rockhold has just developed into an absolute monster.
Jesse and I got to see Cormier fight in one of his first fights.
In the Strikeforce.
Yeah, Strikeforce.
Yeah, I was there for a lot of those.
Yeah.
I think Luke's probably one of the biggest freaks in nature because we're the same height, but he's he fights at middleweight. He's a weight class below me. But when we grapple or wrestle and he grabs a hold of me, he's every bit as strong on the mat. And that just blows my mind that he could have hips that small and a frame that small. And I've got that much more muscle than him, but when he grabs a hold, he's incredibly strong.
Have you maintained strength training all throughout? You probably lifted for football and stuff like that.
Yeah, that was something that MMA? Looking back, there's a quote. You gotta I forget how it goes, but you got to do what got you there.
Right.
You know, so there was camps where I would continue to lift and I felt strong and felt great in the fight. And then there was other camps where I focused primarily on cardio, you know, and the weight training would kind of be pushed in the back burner.
Right.
And I'd noticed that my resting heart rate would be lower. I'd have better cardio per se, but the second you start grabbing people, that all goes out the window, you know? So if you're using strength training to be strong, that translates to cardio as well. Because now the guy feels lighter. I'm not working as hard to move him around. You know what I'm saying? So there was a lot of mistakes there and things that I could learn from that I really have no use for now, having retired. But,
what was the best kind of camp that you ever had leading into a fight, whether it was a successful fight or a loss? What did you do? Like, if you could replicate one camp over and over and over again.
So the greatest camp I ever had was against Glover Teixeira, which was the worst loss of my career. The problem was I started it early. So I peaked about 3 weeks out. And that's not by any means to say I would have beat Glover. He was definitely a level ahead of me in striking, way ahead of me in jiu-jitsu, and a better wrestler. So I we were trying to wrap our heads around how we could beat that guy, and I still don't know how I could beat that guy. But having said that, had I started that camp a little later, I would have peaked really well for that fight.
Right.
I felt fucking amazing.
And what did you do different in that one opposed to, besides peaking way too early? If you could have pulled that peak closer to the fight, what was different in that one?
I had all my guys for one. So a lot of times guys are hurt, or their fight is a different time than yours, so they're off doing something, having their downtime, that kind of thing. But I had Cormier, I had Kane, I had Luke, the entire camp. Everyone was in fight shape together. We were all pushing each other. I had a good mix of doing altitude training with Victor and still hitting the heavy weight training and things like that. So I had this perfect blend of being able to go the distance, having cardio, and still having that raw power that you need,
What was the nutrition like at that time?
I didn't really get into nutrition until right after ASU. I had a strength coach tell me that I farted a lot.
That sounds like ooey. Was that ooey scientific? No,
it wasn't ooey. But I said, that's generally not something that men tell each other.
Right.
And he was like, no, seriously, I think you have a food intolerance. And so I started getting into Paul Chek and watched a video of his and read his book, How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy. And we did a elimination diet where I eliminated all dairy and all gluten. And when I add back
people
dairy,
just think it's like part of the process. If you're going to eat a lot and you're going to be muscular and big, that you're going to be shitting and farting all day.
Yeah, exactly. It's protein powder. It's this, it's that. You got an excuse for everything. But when I added back in the dairy, I was fine. When I added back in bread, I couldn't breathe out of my nose. I was farting like crazy, and they were brutal farts too. So it was like a no-brainer. So I and understanding that, eliminating gluten from the diet, and then really wanting to dive into nutrition and understand it better. Right. And then also, fighting really gave me this dynamic of how I spend my time. Like I used to love video games, but if I'm spending, all my downtime playing video games instead of working on my body or learning something new, then that's going to cost me come fight day. So really fighting gave me the opportunity to push myself and learn more. And then I started reading and diving into a lot of different books and things like that on nutrition.
Oh, I loved video games for so long, and then once I had my son, he would take my games and he would just throw them over his shoulder. So whatever discs I had or whatever it was, they would all be scratched.
And have boogers on them.
Milk and whatever the fuck else. Thanks, Jake.
While we're still kind of talking about fighting, you're part of the lawsuit, going after lost wages, or how is it? Well, just let's talk through that a little bit, because I think it's, you and I get to talk about it all the time, and it's fascinating, especially the numbers and the discrepancy that we see from sport to sport. And I don't think people do understand how literally you're fighting for peanuts. Yeah. And I mean the discrepancy because people are seeing Conor McGregor now. They're like, oh, you guys are complaining about all
dude's
this
always
stuff.
in a Bentley.
Right. And I mean, you're talking about living in your mom's garage and everything, but talk about it. What was your first contract with the UFC, and talk us through the lawsuit of everything that's going on.
Yeah, when I signed with the UFC, the Ultimate Fighter contract was considered the longest contract you could have, and it was a 9-fight deal for 3 years. But what they don't say is within the contract, there's many clauses that can hold you pretty much indefinitely. And so every time you get hurt, which is often, whether it's in training or whether it's in a fight, they just extend that as long as they want. So 6 months at a time goes by, and then you tell them, okay, I'm ready to fight. Well, your contract doesn't start until you fight again. So you might say you're ready to fight after the 6-month injury suspension, and another 3 months goes by before you actually fight. So now you've added 9 months to your 3-year deal. I mean, I fought in the UFC for 6 years, and it was on that one contract.
Right.
I only had 9 fights.
Shit.
So that was the length of my entire contract. And obviously, because of exclusivity and things like that, there's no negotiating with anybody else. There's no free agency. It's not a free and open market. So really what the class action lawsuit...
What were you making per fight? What was the contract?
I started at 8 and 8, so $8,000 a show, $8,000 to win. And then it went to 10 and 10, my second tier of 3 fights, and then it went to 12 and 12, my last tier of 3 fights. So in that, if you win your fight, you're getting $16,000. You pay 10% to your coaches, you pay 10% to your management, and you still haven't even paid Erwin R. Scheister a dime, right?
And there's a lot of time and just a lot of resources that go into the whole process of it. I mean, just your everyday training, your food, so many
food
other
and
things.
Supplements. That's the thing. You start learning about nutrition, and you're like, well, shit, man, I want to shop at Sprouts, I want to shop at Whole Foods, and I want to buy organic, and I want grass-fed beef, and all that adds up over time. It really does. So really what we're working on with the class action lawsuit is the fact that the UFC became a monopoly and a monopsony. And through buying out the competition, anybody that rose to a level that was a worthwhile competitor, like Strikeforce and Pride, they snatched them up.
Right.
And in doing that, they were also able to grab the majority of their good fighters, which made them not only the only show in town, but they had all the elite fighters. So even if you wanted to fight somewhere else, you were tied down through exclusivity in your contract and threats. Yeah. And we've seen that time and time again where a guy wanted to wait till he wanted to finish his fight contract to shop around.
Right, yeah.
And with one fight left, if you don't sign, they want you to sign another contract with one fight left. So if you say no, they fuck with you. And they did that with Andrei Arlovsky before his last fight in the UFC. Obviously, he's back with them now, but they sat him on the bench the longest period they could. I think it was 11 months. And they put him on the undercard against a hand-picked wrestler they thought would beat him. And I think he ended up winning that fight, but they did everything to discredit that guy and make him have no value when he left the UFC.
Right.
There's basically no players association. There's no one.
There's no collective bargaining. There's really nothing that goes on. And I saw it firsthand being at AKA. After I got on the Ultimate Fighter, they wanted to do lifetime likeness agreement. And generally, if you sign lifetime anything away, there's some type of compensation when you die for your family. Right. And so Fitch was trying to wrap his head around this. And he wasn't arguing with the UFC. He was just talking, in the gym and among the coaches and management about it and saying, this doesn't make sense to me. Why give them lifetime likeness? And maybe we can try to talk some different way. And in that time period, I think maybe it had been a week or two, Dana just fired everybody at AKA.
Shit.
And he went on a rant, the video's online, anybody can look it up. And he was like, fuck AKA, fuck Fitch. Who the fuck is Cain Velasquez? The guy's 2-0. And he just went down the list, and it was like, that is the definition of strong arming.
Right.
To 86 everybody, just for even questioning what was put in front of him. You sign or you don't play. And he could do that to one of the greatest gyms, one of the greatest teams in the whole world.
Absolutely, yeah.
Now, what does that do to everyone else? I was talking with Brandon Vera, who's a part of the class action lawsuit too, and he was at Alliance in San Diego. A lot of great guys there. And it was like, you get in line. You gotta march to the beat of the drum. You got to do exactly what they say, or else you're done too. If they can do that to AKA, they can do that to anybody.
Right. And when you're young and you're coming up, and you probably don't, you're probably just not, exactly thinking of those things, and other fighters probably like, hey man, don't fucking ruffle feathers. Like, this is a cool gig that we got. But it's really interesting, like how you're saying they control so much of it. Like something like WWE will do something similar, but WWE is like literally creating your character for you. They're like writing scripts and things like that. And it's just a different thing. I mean, you guys, it's not like in wrestling they're not doing the training, they're not taking care of their bodies and everything else too. Still a ton goes into that. I think you realize that. But with MMA, it's like your body is on the line each and every time, and you're out there in a fucking fight, and there's so many dangerous things that can happen. So it's interesting that they had such a stranglehold on everything, and it makes sense that they wouldn't want you to go to another company or do anything with anybody else. But at the same time, you figure there would be something there where they would allow fighters to figure out a way to make more money.
Well, it's kind of odd. especially when you say that, because it seems like they've done everything to prevent that from happening. I mean, even among sponsorship, when you look at, obviously, you know, there's quite a few people that were upset by the Reebok deal. Other people think that it's maybe not that bad of a deal because it takes a little bit less of the stress of trying to figure shit out. But prior to that, when they implemented the sponsorship tax, that hurt guys just as bad. You know, you got to pay the UFC $100,000 just to sponsor a guy. And there was a lot of sponsors that I had who sponsored 1 or 2 fighters. You know, they weren't sponsoring guys across the board. They had a couple people that they liked in MMA. They had a couple boxers, a couple other guys.
Standard amount. You got to pay $100,000 a year.
Yeah, sometimes it might be 50 or whatever. But I mean, if I'm making $3 or $4 grand a fight from one sponsor, that's a lot of money to me, especially with the crap money I'm making in my fights. You know, that gets me by. That helps me pay the bills and things like that. And it completely eliminated them because they don't have $100,000 to pay the UFC just to pay me $3 or $4 grand.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, it's actually a really interesting thing seeing all those fighters come out with all the different sponsors each and every time, the different logos and the different things. Was that kind of a pain in the ass to try to get some of that together when you were doing that?
Yes and no. You know, if you have good management, they were able to find, you know, different guys, things like that. Our management was pretty good, Zinc and Entertainment, you know, at finding guys that would sponsor kind of the team. Like, hey, if you make it to a certain level, you're going to be on
everybody
TV.
Have a manager?
Not everybody, but, you know, if you...
Makes
depending where you
easier.
train, yeah, you know, if you depending where you train, they usually have a guy there, you know, like that kind of thing. Like you come to AK, Bob Cook, Dwayne Zinkin usually are the guys that will run your management.
Yeah, I think a lot of times people don't realize that, you know, you have the ability to do some things on your own, but within the confines of the UFC, it doesn't sound like you have that opportunity.
No.
So if you
systematically and methodically taken away from you with purpose.
Talk about the difference, the pay difference that you were talking about. You know, you don't have the ability to collective bargaining as a fighter, but talk those percentages that you've talked to me about. I think it's just staggering.
Yeah, so it's estimated right now that on any given fight card, even when there's a Conor McGregor or a Brock Lesnar fighting who's going to get 7 figures, even on a fight card like that, that total revenue going to the fighters is 15% or less. So if you compare that to other sports, in 2007, the NFL Players Association went on strike to get 55% of the revenue and 45% to the owners. And they got it.
Right.
They won in court. We're at 15. If you compare that to other combat sports,
boxing,
Strikeforce paid about 65 to 70% on any given fight card to the fighters. Boxing pays 80% on any given boxing card to the fighters. That's how a guy like Floyd can make $40 million in a fight.
Yeah. I've always wondered. I was always like, well, how do they make so much fucking money?
But even the guys on the lowest end they're going to show up and make 15 guaranteed, right? And that's a big difference too, is the win-loss stuff. You know, like you're going to fight your ass off no matter what. I don't need a win. I don't need my purse to double or get cut in half based on if I win or lose. I'm going to if I don't perform, they can cut you at any time. You know, their contract is exclusive to them. It's not guaranteed that I get all 9 fights. Right. They can cut you at any time, and they've done that time and time again. A guy doesn't perform well, or they don't like his fighting style, like John Fitch was ranked in the top 5 and had lost to Damian Maia.
Right.
And he had just had a fight of the night bonus right before that fight. He loses to Maia, and they cut him. So there's no guarantees there, and it's definitely a one-sided deal. But yeah, hopefully we can.
Do you think things are
getting
any better now?
Well, with the new owners, I think there's a couple things going. They got to hit the ground running too, right? And there's some clauses with that buyout that say if they don't make a certain amount of money, they pay the Fertittas less. But I don't think that's the driving force. I think the driving force is like they don't want to save that money. They'd rather give that money and be able to make the business as profitable as possible. Right. But that said, they're not in the best interest of the fighters. They're in the best interest of making money for themselves. That's why you buy a company, is to make money, not to make less money.
You would think that the valuation in that sale probably works for the fighters in the class action suit, because it's like this has created tremendous value.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not generally, you know, when you brought up the fact that one of the things we're going for is the difference in the compensation that we would have gotten in a free and open market, right? And that's for the bout class, and that's also for our likeness, like what we could have made in a free and open market if we had our likeness given to us. So in the bout class, it's pretty simple. How many fights you had since the class action lawsuit started? And one misconception is that it's just me, Fitch, Vera, and Kung Lee, and a couple other guys that are going after some cash. it's every single fighter who fought in that time period.
What's the time period again?
I think it was
07?
filed. Yeah, no. I think it was filed only, man, maybe 4 years ago.
Okay.
I don't know. It hasn't been that long. Like there's fights. I only have 6 fights that count on the lawsuit. Not all my fights count. You know, if you fought like Nate Corey is a friend who's a part of the lawsuit, none of his fights count. So only the likeness counts for him.
That's really interesting because he's one of the people who's most outspoken about a lot of this stuff, and he takes a lot of heat for this.
He wants change more than anybody.
I think that's great. I think people see him as money hungry, and the fact that he won't actually gain anything from this. I think
he's going to gain
great
likeness,
that he's one
and
of
that's
those
about
soldiers.
it. You know, and that could be. We really have no idea what that could be because we have nothing to compare it to. What's 0 compared to everything else? Right? Like we have no clue what it'll be.
It's probably less. I'm not a math guy, but that's less.
Our lawyers are going to hire a really good economist to figure out the math on things like that. Once it goes to trial. So we're in good hands. You know, we really have. If you look through history, every major sport's gone through this.
Oh, yeah.
You know, all of them have. Boxing, the NBA, football, all this stuff has already happened. And in those cases, good things happened for the athletes. You know? So I think we will see some positive change moving forward. And, you know, more than anything, it's about not having guys that want to get into this sport later on get screwed over the way the guys in the past did. You know, and the unfortunate part is that the founding fathers of the sport, you know, the Dan Severns and Don Fries and guys like that, they don't stand to make anything.
2 awesome mustaches, by the way.
Amazing.
and a Speedo wearers as well, right?
Mountain mustache and Speedo, that's one too,
That's a hell of a combo.
That is.
But that's true of the NFL and baseball and all that stuff too. Anybody that was an athlete in those sports before free agency didn't make any money and didn't, you know.
Yeah, and you were lucky to have this opportunity to do this, and it's the thing you love, so you're going to do it, and you're going to do what we want you to do.
They worked at hardware stores and sold insurance and used cars.
Just trying to make it right in some way and then make it right moving forward.
Yeah, I would never want my kid to fight in the current state that it is. You know, but if it's something that changes and it's fair to everyone, and that's something you want to do, then I'd be all for it. You know?
You think the UFC's lost a little momentum in the last couple? Like it seems like last year seemed pretty good for them, 2016 in general, but it seemed like over the last several months they maybe lost a little momentum. Guys are getting popped for drugs all the time. Guys are getting hurt, which is just part of it. You think it's losing a little bit of momentum?
Well, I think there's a couple things going on. One, they, in an effort to get all these guys under exclusive contracts, they just kept adding people. Right. And they know they don't have to fight you 3 times a year, so they can just sit dudes on the bench and give them 1 or 2 fights a year. But they also tried to add more shows, and a lot of those are free, which is fantastic. I still watch the UFC all the time as a fan. And I think to diehard fans, that was something they appreciated. But to the average fan, they're like, the fights are on this weekend. Who gives a shit? You know, I don't know anybody on the card, that kind of thing.
Right. You got Fight Pass.
Yeah, I got to watch it on Fight Pass this weekend to see Jimmy Manoa fight down or up in London. You know, those kind of things to the average fan, they're not a draw.
Yeah.
So I think maybe they had hoped for more people to sign in. I don't know. I think they're doing well with UFC Fight Pass as an income stream for them, but I think there was a little oversaturation to the average fan that turned them off.
It happened with wrestling. You know, WCW and WWF going back and forth.
I hated that. How do you work storylines for all these great guys? There's too many great guys.
Monday Night Raw back and forth.
Oh, that was the best, though. With Nitro, Monday Nitro, and Monday Night Raw. Those are good times.
But at least they had a competitor.
Wrestling. Yeah, and they made them better.
UFC doesn't have anything like that. So.
But the other issue is that the big name guys, you know, you've seen like big name guys fall, you know, like Ronda Rousey falls.
Yeah.
She's not going to come back. Even if she fights again, she's never going to be Ronda Rousey of before. Right. Kane's been hurt. A lot of my teammates at AKA have been hurt. And, you know, it's been an issue that people want to talk shit about, that kind of thing. But dudes get hurt, you know, and that's kind of been
what is up with
the luck
Kane
of the draw.
Velasquez? How's he doing?
He's doing great. I was talking with Jesse.
I know he's got like he had a shoulder thing for a while.
Yeah, now it's a back. He just had back surgery. He's recovering well, but he's got to take his time. He put a nice post on his Instagram and Twitter.
Was really good.
You know, talking about what he owes to the fans is to be the best he can be. And he's going to wait to make sure that he doesn't rush anything because he's rushed back from injuries in the past and been hurt again. So really take the time to make sure that he's good, and then take the time to get into fight shape, and then be the best he can be. And I have full confidence, you know, that he's greatest heavyweight of all time and will have that belt before he retires.
I think it was interesting. We were kind of talking about that where my hope is, just because of the current situation with the fighters, is someone who says that, it sounds really great, and that's exactly what you want to hear. But a lot of times, and having the limited fighters that I have contact with, they're going to rush back because they need a paycheck. So my hope was like, man, I just hope that Kane's got enough money to sustain him over the next X amount of months before he can go ahead and do that, because that's when it really comes out. If that's your job and you're not making any money, that's going to become a stress, and then you might kind of jump back in. Is that something that you've seen? Was that what was happening with Kane before? And have you seen that at AKA? People are like, dude, I got to get a paycheck. I got to go.
So I'm not sure if that was the reasoning for Kane. I think it was more pressure from the UFC.
More ego. Just wants to get back in there. I feel good. I'm just going to go.
Or just like, I'm going to grind through it.
Right.
And just not really understanding, like, this thing hurts me more than I think it does.
Right.
But like even Daniel Cormier, I think before he fought Dan Henderson, he was telling me about an injury they had. I think it was his knee. But it was a pretty serious injury, and he was going to need surgery for it. And he's like, I just need to fight. It's 6 figures.
Right.
And I was like, don't say that, DC. Come on, dude. And here I am, a guy making 10% of that in a fight.
Right.
And but I understood it. And he went on to have a great fight against Dan Henderson. So that was one of the things where it ended up panning out for him.
Right.
But a lot of guys do that, and then it doesn't pan out, because you get in the fight and that little thing gets dinged up and it's already hurt, and then it's a real issue for you.
Take us inside the Ultimate Fighter. What it was like being on that show, and like what do people not get?
Well, there's kind of two sides of the coin there. You have the guys that are thrilled to be there. I was one of them, and I went from bouncing 5 nights a week. Like I said, you're getting home at 3 a.m. You're getting up, you're grinding the next day, and to now being able to train full time. You eat, sleep, and train. We had some of the best coaches in the history of the sport. We had, Nogueira, obviously in his own right, Big Nog, one of the greatest ever. He brought in Anderson Silva. Lyoto Machida came in for a couple of weeks. We had top tier guys coaching us, and you're doing 2 practices a day. All your food's paid for. You live in a house with a bunch of knuckleheads, but to me, it didn't matter. Other guys who came from, maybe they own their own gym, that kind of thing. They have a wife and a kid. They miss their family. They miss, running the gym. They miss making money because you don't get paid shit on the show. You don't get paid for your fights. You get $500 a week per diem. Like that's all you would make back home is $500 a week. I'm sorry, it doesn't cut it.
Right.
So, and because they call those exhibition fights, they can not pay you for it, right? So it's really a funny deal. And of course, there's, due to likeness and things like that, there's no compensation. It's not like you get your Screen Actors Guild thing, and anytime it's in syndication, you get a paycheck, you get royalties, those kind of things. I get fan mail and shit like that from Australia, like, oh, Tough 8 just started airing here again. We're watching it. You guys are crazy. And it's like, oh, that's nice that they're getting paid more money from advertisers and things like that to run this somewhere else, and people are buying the DVDs still, and there's not a dime going to any of us. But I really liked it.
I got some friends who chose like a different route when it came to wrestling. They were like, you know what, like WWE, it's flooded with talent, and I don't know where I fit in all that, and I'm just going to go to Japan, I'm going to go to Mexico, and I'm going to, just circle around that the best I can. You ever have any thoughts like that with your career? Did you ever think of, trying to explore something a little bit different?
There wasn't an option, was there?
Yeah, there wasn't an option, really, once I got in the UFC.
Was Pride already bought?
Yeah.
Before UFC, I mean, Pride really, and I was telling Jesse this in the write-up, that's what made me a diehard fan of MMA.
Right.
When Pride got on top and you had Vanderlei Silva, Shogun Rua, Big Knock, Fedor, Crow Cop, I think a lot of fans of MMA appreciate that. Like, that was a fucking amazing time in the sport.
And no rules really to speak of, and they didn't really care about
but they always
performance-enhancing drugs,
which
was my favorite part of it.
They took care of the guys. You get 100,000 cash in a briefcase, and they, more than that, it was the camaraderie and the respect too. Like, it felt like a martial art, even though the fights were brutal. Yeah, they would bring everyone into the ring before and after. You'd walk out. They would have each guy stand and highlight it together prior to the fight.
Maybe more traditional.
Yeah. There was a camaraderie, and all the guys are put up in the same hotel together, those kind of things. They'd all eat in the same cafeteria together. There was just a different feel to it. But I only had one opportunity to fight in Pride. When I signed with King of the Cage, I had asked for, they didn't want me to fight in the UFC. They didn't like the owners of King of the Cage didn't like the owners in the UFC.
Weird.
And so I was like, well, I do want to fight in Pride at some point. And they said, okay, we'll get you a fight in Pride. they never really got me the fight. What they did is on a 2-week notice, they said, "Hey, we got you this short notice fight in Pride. Do you want to take it? It's for $20,000." And that was way more money than I had ever made before. I was getting like, 1,000 a show and 1,000 to win, and I was like, "Who's it against?" And they said Sergey Karatanov, and I just started laughing, and I was like, "On fucking 2 weeks' notice, on 2 weeks, this guy would annihilate me on the full camp. Are you out of your mind?" You know, like I'm fighting mid-tier guys and having success, but Karatanov was an elite level dude. You know, I mean, him in his prime could beat a lot of guys even in the top tier in the UFC today. You know, phenomenal
So you didn't
fighter.
do it.
No, that fight got turned down. That
You're
was
just like, no, it doesn't make sense.
it was like a ridiculous, you know, that's like you're fighting in some local show, and then they're like, "Hey, we got a short notice fight against John Jones," and you're like, "What?" I mean, I'm sure plenty of guys would take that just to get into the UFC.
The Rocky Balboa story right there.
Yeah,
Here's $20,000 to run into a truck.
pretty much.
Yeah, there was no guarantee.
Well,
I
Karatanov
won't take
was-
any
he
cheap
was
shots or
running
anything.
you
I'll
more
be
than
a
running
good
to-
sparring partner for Creed.
Right.
That's the Rocky story right there. That's awesome.
It is.
Yeah, like you know, one of my friends, Samoa Joe, he's on TV now with WWE. So it's so interesting seeing him now after this long journey, and then now he kind of like writes his own ticket. So it's really cool to see, and he's just like, he's pretty much chilling with Triple H. Him and Triple H kind of like quote unquote run Monday Night Raw. So it's really cool to see that he kind of, you know, took that route. But I guess with what you're saying is like that's not even really feasible because there's not any other really organizations where you can really make
once you're in the UFC, there are no other options.
You're locked in.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, prior to that, there might have been a couple other options, but once I was there, I was locked in. You know, and then looking outside that now, like if you look at other guys who I would consider elite level fighters, like my buddy King Mo. He hasn't gone in the UFC. He's gone in other organizations. He fought in Strikeforce, was a Strikeforce light heavyweight champ. He's fighting in Bellator now. He's got his big fight coming up against Rampage, the rematch. That should be a good one. But you know, outside of that, there's not a ton of great matchups for him. They got Phil Davis and Liam McGeary and things like that. I mean, you're looking on one hand, big name fights for him, you know, and if you want to fight the best in the world, there's only one show in town for that. So,
what's your greatest achievement in the ring?
Man,
what are you most proud of?
Well, if I was going to say like from a fight standpoint, it'd probably be my fight with Ricardo Romero. I had gotten sick the night before, sitting in a steam room with some dude hawking up a lung. And I didn't even thought, I was like, my immune system's good. It's no big deal. And then, of course, that night, I mean, I sweat so bad in bed that I would roll over to the other side of the bed and then sweat so bad on that side. When I rolled back, it'd be still soaking wet and ice cold. And I did that the entire night. When I woke up, I didn't even want to get on the scale because I know I'd lost at least 10, 15 pounds of water.
Oh, my God.
And I was warming up in the locker room. And this was a big fight. I think it was Super Bowl weekend in Mandalay Bay or MGM Grand. The headliners they had three main events. They had a co and a co-main. So the co-main was my buddy Ryan Bader. He was fighting John Jones prior to John winning the belt. Rich Franklin against Forrest Griffin is the co-main. And then the main event was the famous Vitor Belfort versus Anderson Silva.
Nice.
Right? And so I'm on the undercard.
That's the crane kick.
Yeah, that was the Steven Seagal, Master Seagal. So I'm warming up, and I know I have no cardio, and normally do like 3 5s of mitt work, a couple 5s of grappling. And I get about 2 minutes into the round, just hitting mitts lightly, and I'm like, I'm good, I'm done. And I didn't want to tell my coaches because I didn't want to plant that seed in my head.
You throwing up or shitting or anything or chills?
No, I was fucking just no endurance at all. Like muscles were burning, like pumping battery acid through my body. And, you know, I waved them off and they're like, "You sure?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm good." You know, and then, all right, I'm sitting.
You're not telling anybody.
I wasn't telling them. And so a few minutes go by and they're like, "Come on, dude, let's get up. Let's do another one." And I was like, "All right." So I do like a minute. And now I stop at a minute. And they're like, "What's going on?" And I was like, "I'm good. I'm good." So don't tell them anything. So I walked to the cage, and as I'm walking, it was like the march of death. You know, like here I'm going to get slaughtered right now. And it wasn't until the cage door locked, and there's just me, the ref, and Romero.
Were you wearing pink shorts for this one too?
I can't remember what I was wearing.
Didn't you get booed in like Iowa because you wore those?
I got booed in a King of the Cage fight. I was walking out with my ASU gear on, and everyone's cheering for me. and I pull off my warm-ups. I had pink Fairtex Muay Thai trunks on, and they're like, "Kill that guy in pink!" Boo! You know, like, burn that faggot. Like they were livid. Yeah, that was in Lac de Flambeau, Wisconsin.
All right.
They couldn't handle it.
But yeah, I get in there, the cage door shut, and for whatever reason, I realized like I just had to let go, because if I overthought, I was thinking like, fuck, what happens if this goes to the second round? What happens if this goes to the third round? And he just fought Seth Petrozelli. I think his jaw was broken and he tore his pec in that fight, and he still wound up winning. Shit. So like he was a monster. He was like a Terminator. Like you couldn't destroy this guy, you know. And that's what I'm thinking. And I just completely let go. And that was the only fight that I had in the UFC where I was completely dialed into what people call the zone. You know, like just total. It slowed down for me. Like
yeah,
it was
for whatever
like,
reason,
it was like the
clicked.
fucking Matrix. I mean, that fight was so slow motion to me. And I forever after that fight tried to get back to that state, but I couldn't.
Yeah.
And it was really just having my back against the wall that allowed me to get into that state. And then I won in 22 or 26 seconds, something like that.
Damn.
And that was phenomenal. You know, full crowd, sellout crowd. I'm on top of the cage flexing on everybody. It was a badass feeling. And that was my only win in the UFC that was, you know, under a minute, that kind of thing. So
what's it like, you know, like we've talked about it many times on the podcast before, when you know, you're somebody that grows up with a natural aggression, maybe a little bit higher than the rest, right? And you get into some fights and you probably usually win, right? And then you get into this environment where everybody's good. And you nail somebody with your best shot, and the guy smiles, the guy's excited by it, the guy's like almost gets energy from it. What's that like when you have an opponent like that in front of you?
Didn't you almost explain that? Wasn't that Glover?
Well,
You explained almost the same thing.
Glover was a guy that hit me so hard that I forgot where the locker room was. Like I was literally lost, and my cornerman had walked away, and I did not know how to get back. But because I didn't want to get an increased medical suspension, I just played it dumb. Like, I was making small talk with everyone, UFC personnel, you know, anybody I bumped into. Hey, how's it going? You know, trying to put a smile on my face. Like I had no fucking clue where to go. I knew I just fought. I knew I was in the arena. I just didn't know where the locker room was. But what's funny is that like that exact guy that you're talking about, this guy who smiles at you when you hit him. Yeah, that's who I fought in Lac de Flambeau, Wisconsin, in pink trunks. He was this huge Native American, and he had a fucking brick for a head. And I hit him with everything I had, and I was tagging him, you know, combinations, everything, and it just didn't matter. And in between rounds, my coach was like, "You got to go to the body. You're not going to knock this guy out. Just go."
Does he
to
have
the
a big
body."
old fat head, this guy?
Dude, he was huge. He was
Like
I
a
was
Burdick head?
Still fighting. Yeah, it was a Burdick head. But he was, you know, he was 265. I was still fighting heavyweight. I was about 235. And it didn't matter what I hit the guy with. He kept marching forward, you know, and he could hit hard too. So that was kind of a rude awakening. You know, I finished that fight. It was a clear decision victory for me, but I was so disappointed. It was like, I mean, I could not, like, it was probably my most disappointing victory. Yeah. Just hanging my head. I wasn't talking to anybody.
What do you kind of shift to, like, during that? Like, okay, I'm going to have to be quicker. I'm going to have to be more skillful. I just thought, like,
I'm setting up shots. I'm landing. Now I'm going to fucking dig in, you know, and I would just bury a right hand thinking like, that's the one, that's the one. And he just keeps marching forward. And you're like, no, why? What's wrong here? Like, what am I doing wrong? You know?
Do you ever go up against someone who, like a Diaz who's going to talk shit to you the whole time, who's literally talking to you like, oh, that was awesome. Let's do that one again. And you're like, leave me the fuck alone.
Thankfully, I haven't had that in fighting. I did in football. I have guys that would talk shit to me the entire game, even if I was smoking them, you know, offensive linemen that would stay in my ear.
Not as much of that in MMA, probably, right?
No, well, the thing is, too, like, they don't want you to talk in the cage. I remember Mike Swick, my buddy, getting warned. He had been taken down, and he looks at the ref. He holds his hands up, and he's like, "Are you going to fucking hold me here the whole time? You know, like, are you going to move? Are you going to do anything?" And the guy wasn't working for anything, so that's why Swick could really run his mouth. But he kept running his mouth, and the ref warned him, and he was like, "Warn the guy for stalling. What are you doing? You know, like, he's not doing anything."
Right. Any permanent damage from the ring?
What's that?
And there we go. Welcome to the podcast, everybody. We're here with
Bing.
Yeah.
Bing.
You know, I think, thankfully, my body has held up pretty well. You know, I've only needed like one major surgery. I had a slap tear training for I think it was between my second to last and my last fight, and that's fully healed up. The head stuff is really something I paid attention to, you know, and thankfully there's a wealth of information out there, And podcasts have been a great source of that. You know, like Dr. Rhonda Patrick has a great podcast. There's a lot of people out there who are balls deep in science and different things that can enhance cognitive function. And I'm into nootropics. I'm into anything that can help the body. I do periodic fasting, and I did a 5-day water-only fast last year. I'd like to do a 7-day extended fast. These things have tremendous benefit for the brain. Obviously, we talked about the ketogenic diet. And even though I'm not in ketosis and haven't been since April, I still supplement with MCT oil and things like that, just so I have ketones coming in, helping out. And yeah, you know, hot and cold therapy. We were talking about Wim Hof method before. You know, like there's a lot of when you stress your body in different ways, like ways that would be similar prior to air conditioning and blankets and bullshit like that, the body responds in a ton of different ways. And it's not just you know, making you.
So maybe even that's why like fasting is.
Fasting is the same thing.
It's
Yeah, you're basically you allow the body to clean house. You know, and if you never
it's the
take
stress
a break,
that our body is designed to deal with.
Yeah, and think
cold,
of
hot.
Yeah, before we had air conditioning, before we had grocery stores and refrigeration, we would go for periods without eating. We just had to. And we would go through periods
could use that.
where we'd be super hot, and we'd go through periods where we're super cold. You know, these are physiological adaptations we had to have as human beings. And it makes sense to understand, like, these things make us stronger in ways we don't imagine, like ways that science is just starting to dive into. And the importance of mitochondria for all of it, not just for physical activity, but for cognitive function. If you can enhance the mitochondria, you're going to think clearer. You're going to have more energy to think. You're going to have more energy when you read. You're going to retain more information, and you're going to be stronger too. You're going to make more ATP. You're going to be able to
a lot of
lift
times
a little bit
that's
heavier.
done through conditioning type work, right?
Yeah, high intensity intervals, powerlifting, and that's, you know, one of the things. Getting back to the beginning of our conversation, talking about why I went off the ketogenic diet. One of the reasons was reading this thing with Rob Wolf and Dominic D'Agostino was talking about how.
His memory's not that bad, Jesse.
No,
You're
it's not
analytic.
No, it's. I mean, actually, you know, dealing with football players and fighters. I mean, Kyle's been amazing, and that's why, you know, it's kind of similar with John Wellborn, who's done a ton of research and have realized, like, I got hit in the head a lot, and that's probably not good. So, you know, to have you talking intelligently, you're able to understand things, and this isn't what you went to school for. This is something that you've delved into just because you're interested in it. It's kind of caught your fancy. You like it, and I mean, it's more for your own benefit, but it's, you know, it's going to eventually help a lot of other people too, because of the way you're talking about it, and you're so educated about it. I remember it was the last podcast you were on. You're just destroying these people. People are like, oh my God, it's like, we had no idea you're actually. We thought you were just some meathead.
Oh, I think that might have been Mind Pump. Yeah.
Right, it was Mind Pump. They were like,
it's
holy
the ears.
shit.
It's the ears.
It is.
Like,
well, they're just like, this guy's
beats the hell out of people for a living.
You know, he's going to punch me in the face.
The meathead body throws people off.
It does, right. And I mean, to speak so highly on so many different subjects is amazing. That's why, you know, being able to just have you at the gym and talk with you about so many different things is amazing. It's like talking with John, and I mean, talking with these other people.
Too.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, but it's so interesting, and I think, you know, you're on the. I really consider people like you and John on the cutting edge. Yeah, there's a lot of science going on, but you have the practical science. You've done this stuff, and you're like, dude, that doesn't work. Like, well, the science says, like, I'm telling you, dude, that doesn't fucking work.
Yeah, or it doesn't work for me, but it might work for you, right?
Exactly.
That's a conversation we got into as well.
But it's one of those things, is like, you know, how does some researcher in some lab have any sort of access to you or anyone at AKA? You know, you can be like, hey, you ever try this stuff? Like, holy shit, that works so well. Thank you for that. That's where, you know, people want to see, you know, the concussion issue and all this other stuff, you know, brain damage, you know, take a turn for the better. And it's going to be people like you who are leading this charge, saying, look, this has happened. I know it's real, you know, and this is the stuff that's kind of helped out. Yeah. And I think it's, you know, it's amazing. And that's really where the cutting edge is. That's where it's all kind of coming from.
In your opinion, what responsibility does UFC or NFL or Major League Baseball bear for head trauma? Like, especially, you know, careers are short in all of these. They can be very short in all of them, and you're setting people up for potentially a lifetime of changed mental status.
Yeah, that's really the issue, and a lot of fans don't understand this. Like, the common theme is, you know what you signed up for. Like, you know what you got yourself into.
Do you?
But the problem isn't that, hey, it's going to be a short window and then I can go on to something else. The problem is it's a short window and then I may not have anything else to go on after too, right? I may not be mentally capable of having a regular job when it's all said and done. And, that's why you see, some of the old timers like Dan Severn fight until he's 56 years old. It's just there's nothing else for him.
Right.
Football players end up getting labor jobs where they're working in construction well into their 50s and they're fat and out of shape and everything's hurting them, but that's all they can do. That's all they can get paid to do. So really, I would like to see something set up where there is pension, but also there's medical awarded to guys who fight for a certain amount of time because, after a certain period, it's likely you've got some damage and you may have some medical issues, and many guys won't even end up using it. Like I don't go to the doctor for shit. I have a gut doctor that works on the microbiome, and that's it. I don't go to a regular doctor for much, and I don't need to, but when it comes down to a lot of other people who maybe don't have the wherewithal or the time and the discipline to want to dive into this stuff, like I'm passionate about it because I know it helps me.
Right. And
I've seen the results, so it furthers my fuel to keep learning more. You know what I'm saying? And that just kind of fuels the fire, and it's a vicious cycle upward, and to help me out. But if you don't have that, then you might be relying on Western medicine a little bit more than I do.
Back to what you were saying about coming off ketosis.
Yeah. So with Rob Wolf, when he talked about that, what's good for, the ketogenic diet is good for a lot of people. It's not good for all people. And being that I still want to do jiu-jitsu, which is highly glycolytic, and powerlifting, which is highly glycolytic, why miss that entire metabolic pathway, right? And so even when I go back down the road, if I want to entertain ketosis at some point, it'll be more of a cyclical ketogenic diet. And I might do something like Ben Greenfield does where it's like carb night, right? You have no carbs during the day. He still eats about 150 grams at night. He doesn't get out of ketosis from that, but that's also because of his workload. So one misconception is people think like, hey, I'm gonna get on this ketogenic diet, and they eat too many carbs, but they're not doing the same amount of work I'm doing. Like I can get away with more protein and more carbohydrates because I'm training jiu-jitsu for 2 hours and I'm lifting super heavy weight. Heavy for me, I should say, not for powerlifters, right? We'll keep that asterisk there. But yeah,
I've seen you lift. You're pretty damn strong.
My body demands energy from the work that I put in, so I can get away with having a little bit more and still remain in ketosis. And I think it's just you don't miss out. That's what Rob was saying. If you do these things, if you don't do those and you do marathons, then you don't need the glycolytic pathway. But if you do those things, why not tap into that?
I hear people all the time, ask about what do you think about bodybuilding style diet? What do you think about flexible dieting? What do you think about ketosis? What do you think about this? What do you think about fasting? And the answer is yes. Like they're all great. Like they're all good. Why not? Why choose one forever? Like what? Just why? Right? Like same thing with bodybuilding, powerlifting, Olympic lifting, CrossFit, MMA style training, any sort of cardiovascular training you want to get into, HIIT training versus steady state. Like just who the fuck cares? Pick something, do it for a while, and then when it stops working, change to something different.
Yeah, or if you get bored, like that was one thing I learned at XPT was how important it is to make it play, make it enjoyable, because that's sustainable. And a lot of people don't like lifting heavy weight.
That's probably what you like about training with him. It's always different, right?
I fucking love training with Jesse because I show up, I know we're gonna hit deadlift or squat, but I don't know what it's gonna be. I don't
it's
know
gonna be some fucked up
version.
I don't know
if we're doing bands. I don't know if we're doing the
could blow out your spine.
What was that, the death by deficit?
Yeah, death by deficit.
So we kept adding a fucking plate underneath our feet until we couldn't get the
Matt Dimmel.
Barely get the damn toes underneath the bar. That's how high we were.
You got to be careful. Yeah.
It was phenomenal though. It was a phenomenal day. Like I really enjoyed that. I enjoy changing things up and I enjoy keeping it fresh. I sumo deadlift more than I conventional deadlift, but that doesn't mean I'm never going to conventional deadlift. Like doing conventional makes me stronger, maybe more applicable to jiu-jitsu and things like that. But it also translates to my sumo, it translates to my squat, and it translates to my overall fitness and health, right? So those things are all part of the arsenal.
When it comes to sports, people are thinking of these positions that you get in sports, and they think, Jesse and I have talked about this a lot, you think, what's the wide stance for? Why would you do a box squat? And why would you do a sumo deadlift? It's like, well, Jesus Christ, like if you're in a boxing stance or even more importantly, like a stance for MMA where somebody might try to take you down, not only just throw a jab at you, your stance is probably going to be pretty wide.
Yeah, you look at Stephen Wonderboy Thompson or Conor McGregor. Like the karate style is coming into play more now. These guys are super wide. They're incredibly light on their feet, right? Yeah. And they're strong in that position.
It's also a sprawl too. If you're gonna immediately jump back out, so you have a base that's wide and behind you.
Legs together.
No,
sprawl.
Well, if you do, you're probably not going to be in the UFC for very long or fighting at all. You're going to be on your back real fast.
That'd probably be my style.
That'd be yours. That's more of the this just here, just hands up, fall back. Is that a good defensive mechanism?
Just
That'd be good.
tell the ref this is too hard, dude. Like just open the cage up. Let me out of here.
Yeah,
I'm outta
I'm
here.
done. I'm done.
Yeah.
Ref, don't bother with the towel.
Yeah, that guy looks like a killer over there. Don't let me
Come
fight that
in with the white towel.
Why is that guy-
just start,
Have it
and
in
now in this corner,
Stuffing.
with the white towel.
There's no
Mark.
cup on. It's just a
Oh!
drop it in front of the guy.
There you go.
white towel and the Speedo.
It's all too scary for me.
Take it
that's
out
for
of the
sure.
Speedo. There
Yeah.
we go. That's something.
And
That's
you just
really
fling the ball sweat onto your phone. But yeah,
But you do the warm up like you're gonna do it, but then you just,
put on a good show.
Yeah.
Get in with Bruce
See the-
Buffer.
see
you
the
know,
problem
get
with-
the head nod.
come on.
Say my name.
See, the problem with me, if I did that, I don't think it'd be a white towel anymore. It'd probably be more like yellow, and people just be confused. They're like, "What the? Why is he throwing a wet
brown-
yellow
brown
towel?" at
stain
us?"
in the corner.
Absolutely.
Oh,
I do all that work and still get punched in the face and
just
die.
keeps getting worse. How'd you meet this guy?
We actually had flirted online for
Whoa.
a little over a year.
Hey, now we did, and your dad too. That's really weird.
Oh yeah.
All of us
Yes,
flirted online
yes,
first
exactly.
for a long time.
But yeah, I had I worked with a guy who had trained with Dan Green for a while, and then he went to Jesse, and he was speaking the world of Jesse, and I had been following Jesse already online, and Kelly and yourself, and I saw that you guys were a tight knit group,
Cool.
and I had heard great things about CSA as well, so just understanding they had great fighters, they had a lot of good things going on, and I work with mechanic, we call him. Andrew Cortlet,
Yep.
and we worked together at the pseudo titty bar, and he would, he'd always come in, and he's a funny guy because he's a guy who'll talk your ear off, but
He's charged up.
He's comical, and he's like, here, you got to see my deadlift here, and he's got his fucking videos every single time from every lift. You got to watch the whole thing.
Yep.
Here's a PR at a 5 rep, 600 pounds the other day, and I love him, but it's awesome. But I was watching this guy just get like really strong.
Yeah.
Like, really, really strong.
Yeah, you're like, 500, okay, cool, and then he does 550, and he keeps showing you
Yeah,
around. You're like,
and
fuck, all right.
I got a nice box set up from Rogue at the house, and it's really convenient for me to just, especially with the little kid, being able to go outside and lift weights. But I'm doing it on my own. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I remembered the tutelage from Uwe and the tutelage from House, and understanding how much that helped. And then also, we had talked about, after reading Becoming a Supple Leopard, how much it fucked my squat up, trying to keep my toes straight. And like, all right, this is great for mobility, but now my back squat is shit.
Right.
And then working with you on that, it really, day one, he fixed my squat. And day one, the very first time we lifted, that was a PR deadlift. It was the first time I deadlifted 500 pounds.
Yep.
Nice.
So, and that was beltless too.
Yep.
And from there we've climbed. I've battled through ticky-tack injuries with him, but and that's the thing. I talked about that on Mind Pump. It's one thing to get stronger, but to sacrifice your body doing it. It's another thing to get stronger and more mobile and more bulletproof, and to get rid of injuries along the way.
Right.
And that's what I get with Jesse.
It gives you an idea of like you just need a touch of a bunch of different things rather than like a ton of one thing, right?
Yeah.
That's the powerlifting mistake is that you spend 90 minutes or over an hour on one exercise. And it's like, man, you should probably, sometimes when you're heading towards a competition, sometimes that's kind of how long it takes. But realistically, you need to get in and out of that shit like it's a fight, because if you're going to spend all that time deadlifting, it's brutal. And it's going to catch up to you at one point or another.
It takes its toll on your body. But also, if you're doing other things like jiu-jitsu, I can't get on the mat and be locked up.
Right.
I can't be
I've
sore.
talked about that many times. Can't be slowed down.
Yeah,
if you do a max deadlift, you're going to be slowed down.
To get into positions and worry about, if this is tight, that could be an injury.
That was one of my more proud moments with you. Is you were before your, I don't know if it was this one or the prior one. I think that's when you first hit 525 or 530, and then 2 weeks later you had a jiu-jitsu competition. So you were at your strongest still while being able to roll at a very, very high level.
Yeah.
So that was
lots of time on the mat, and mixed with what we're doing at PowerWOD, and everything had a synergy.
Having that conditioning is a blessing, really, because you're going to be able to handle more work. So it's not a hindrance. It will take some time to adapt to the two things at first. But once the adaptation happens, and you're going to adapt to it much faster than most. We got Nsima here that, he'll do jiu-jitsu 3 times a week or so, and he comes in here and he'll pull 750.
Yeah.
Damn.
And he's not sore or nothing. I remember
He's
one
not human. Either though,
yeah,
so that's
his genetics are just crazy. But I remember one time he did this kind of crazy conditioning thing that Tactical Tony threw him.
Tactical Tony.
Threw him in the mix on, he came in the next day, and I was like, "You're gonna train? What are you gonna do?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna deadlift." And I was like, "You're not sore?" He's like, "My calves are kind of tight."
My calves.
And I was like, "You tire flipped, and you were fucking doing plyometric shit he never does."
Yeah.
He just did it on a whim, and
He's
it
like,
was totally
yeah.
fine. I was like, "Holy fuck!"
That is a different human.
But that conditioning can really help a lot.
Well, there's translation too. Like one of the concepts that I think is comical in fitness is training for aesthetics. You know, and if you're an athlete, you train movement patterns, push, pull, squat, hinge, and that translates to everything you do. That translates to going for a hike with your kids, translates to sport. And so when you build those strengths in those exercises, those are primal movement patterns. Like there's something that's natural to that. And that translation helps you adapt to all kinds of other shit. So if you were going to do some weird high intensity interval training that you're not accustomed to, your foundation is stronger, you know, so it's not going to beat you up and take its toll the way that it would, you know, Joe Schmo, who's used to doing arm curls and you know, the single leg hamstring curl and bullshit like that, right?
But you also spend a ton of time, you know, hard work in the gym and on the mat, et cetera, but you'd spend a ton of time recovery-wise, whether it be Wim Hof method, ice bath, and also kind of the Brain FM stuff, right?
Yeah, big time. So, yeah, I mean,
I think it's just something that's lost that people don't quite understand, that they're going to, you know, they think that the 4, 5, 6 hours a week that they put in the gym is
just
gonna,
work out and that's it.
Then that's it. I mean, what people don't realize, you know, about,
more.
you know, some of the stuff that Mark do, that I do, that you do, is you have to almost double or triple that outside of the gym. And you do some of the stuff that it's again, kind of, cutting edge and a little bit more fun. And I always like to let you be the guinea pig, and then, you know, I'll I'll figure out what actually worked, then I'll take it from there. But you're doing some awesome stuff. Just talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, we have. I mean, I love the adage, work hard, rest hard. But a lot of people think that means I'm going to go home and sit on the couch and watch TV. And that's not rest hard. Rest hard means active recovery, doing your mobility work, you know, and I've really gotten into, even though, you know, I joked about the Kelly messing up my squat.
Right.
You know, everything else, doing the super couch stretch has been massive for me, especially with how much I sit in cars and planes and stuff like that.
You still just do it at home while you're just watching TV or whatever, right?
Exactly.
It doesn't matter what you're
playing
doing.
with my kid. We got MMA mats set up. I've got a couple of rogue bands screwed into the wall and up above me, so I can hit all my mobility on my shoulders.
I guess
and
in
hips.
a way, it's almost a way of like continuing to be a kid, because when you're a kid, you never stop moving.
Yeah, you're always playing. You're always putting yourself
Like your
in weird
kid probably doesn't
positions.
really like watch TV and just like chill. Like it's probably pretty rare, right?
Yeah,
he's probably
maybe
moving around and doing
Before
whatever.
bed, we'll throw on a kids movie and that's it. But
Right.
other than that, he's out running around and he's in weird positions. And his squat makes me jealous. He's got perfect mobility. He just drops his ass to the ground and hangs out for a while.
He's got perfect form.
But yeah, I had heard about Wim Hof. A buddy of mine told me, he was like, "Oh man, I see you doing breath work." You know, we're at the beach and I was doing some qigong, like standing meditation breath work. And he was like, "You got to get in the Wim Hof." And I was like, "What, the Wim what?" And he's like, "Dude, Joe Rogan 712." Yeah. And so I listened to it, and I mean, I paused the episode halfway and started doing the deep breaths, and it's phenomenal. Like he says, feeling is believing. And I love that quote, because you feel different immediately. Right. And that's really the telltale sign. And that's kind of how I evaluate drugs now. If you feel good after, then it goes in the good class.
Yeah,
if
then
you
it
feel
works
like
out
shit
well.
the next day, not good. You shouldn't have that one, right? But there's an immediate positive benefit to breath work. And there's an immediate positive benefit to the cold therapy. You know, you get in an ice bath for even just a few minutes and you feel different. There's like a high you get from that.
Right.
And not to mention all the things it does physiologically and whatnot. But there's so much to that. And I've really been diving into that, infrared saunas, things like that. And then, you know, Jesse mentioned, I'm working with a company now called Brain FM, and they make music for the brain. And this is light years ahead of binaural beats.
Yeah, I've heard some of this stuff.
Yeah, so these guys are basically music nerds, and I mean that in the best way possible. And they write code that they're basically creating artificial intelligence.
Right.
And the AI synchronizes music for the brain so it can stimulate different brainwave states.
It's been playing during this entire podcast, by the way.
I'm
Just
yeah, but I mean they got an iPhone app now. They're coming out with the Android app. They're doing big things, and they have, you know, you can set it to focus, meditation, napping, sleeping. You know, I nap with it every day with my son. I use it for focus. On the way
Just
to
throw
the gym.
headphones on or something like that.
Yeah, you throw in the headphones, you play it from your phone, and it works. And that's the whole thing. Like going back to feeling is believing.
Yeah.
They say in 10 to 15 minutes you feel different, and I completely agree with that. And the cool thing is it's not a finished product. So as this gets better, eventually that'll say in 2 to 3 minutes, you feel different. So if you can wire somebody like coffee with music, you've tapped into something special.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And if you can do the same, taking somebody back down, I mean, one thing that I really try to get across to people is in our modern world, it's so important to have quiet time.
Right.
And it's so important to have me time. But that's not you sitting on the can thinking about all your problems. That's you turning your mind off.
Right.
Right. And most people, when I talk to about
meditation, right?
Yeah. Most people, when I talk to about meditation, they're like, dude, I just can't sit quietly in a room. My mind just wanders. And that's fine. That's where this stuff becomes magical.
Right.
Because you can throw the headphones on and put on the meditation app. And whether my mind wanders or not, I get into an alpha wave state.
But just like
calm and relaxed.
Just like anything else, you get used to it and you get better at it, right? Like maybe meditation, maybe the first couple times you try it, you're thinking of a bunch of different things.
You got to work that muscle, right? It's not something you're just going to pick up and be a pro. You know, you're not going to pull 750 right out of the gate, right? Unless you're Brian Shaw, I don't know, but
or Jeremy.
Yeah, you get that on, you put that on, and you feel different. And over time, you can start to work. Like now, I can meditate without it. And even though I prefer to meditate with it, I have that ability because I've trained myself to get there, you know, and that is such an important missing piece in our culture. And people don't think of the benefits in terms of like, what's it going to do for me? You know, like, well, there's some studies on this and that. None of that shit matters. It matters to how you feel, you know, and if you're a workaholic or you're a busybody and your mind's all over the place, people don't realize if I deadlift all day long, it's going to be shit. Right? I can't pull maximal effort if I know I'm going to pull the whole day.
Right.
But if I take a break and I come back and pull, I'm going to be stronger because I've had that break. Well, the same thing works for the mind. If I push pause, even for 15 minutes on my thoughts, when I come back the second half of the day, I'm going to think clearer. I'm going to be sharper. Everything's going to come to me. Memory recall, all those things are enhanced just by pushing pause in the brain for a little bit.
Oh, it makes a big difference. If I don't have, you know, I don't need a lot of time, but 15 minutes or so before I come into the gym, then I really can't do shit training wise. I need 15 minutes of just like not doing anything, you know, just to kind of reset from whatever the fuck else I'm doing, this kind of stuff, or just whatever it might be, having guests in town, podcasting, filming, whatever it is that we're doing. If I have that little extra bit of time, then I can actually have a good workout. If I don't, I might as well not even bother.
Yeah.
What do you say about the breath stuff? I mean, your body knows a lot of these things and just, you know, and does some things just by itself. Like, when people get stressed out, they sigh a lot, and the act of sighing, that breath movement actually lowers your stress, which is, you know, amazing if you think about it.
Yeah, who was the figure skater?
Tanya Harding.
Apollo Ono, is that his name?
Probably, yeah.
He used to yawn before going out there.
Oh, yeah.
Or he was a
Speed skater, not figure skater.
Sorry.
See, that's more I'm more on the figure side of things.
We were just watching Blades of Glory. So I got to put the classics on for my son.
That is by far the best 30 for 30. The Tanya Harding.
Oh my god!
Oh, I didn't see that.
Oh my god, that is amazing.
It's insane. Yeah.
What is it? What was it called? It was.
I forget what it's called, but I've seen it. Yeah.
But that was just the Tanya Harding. Oh my god, you have to see that one. If you guys haven't seen that out there, that's by far the best 30 for 30. 100%.
I got to check it out.
It is. It's horrifyingly just awesome.
But yeah, he would yawn prior to going out because that would start to calm him. You know? And that was something that I always appreciated. You know, a lot of guys in fighting would come out to like death metal and, man, I got to get up for this. Yeah. Roar, I'm going to fight. You know, and they get in there like Kevin Randleman even. You know, he gets in there and a minute into this, he's spent.
Right.
You know, and I'd always come out to like 80s pop, you know, something that would make me laugh and smile on my way to the cage. Because once the door's shut, I know it's go time.
The intensity's there.
You get hit in the face. You know where you are. There is no, I need to get up for this.
Yeah.
My heart's racing already. I want to calm that down and dial it back a notch. But I'd first learned about different breathing techniques with a sports psychologist in fighting. And that would help me a tremendous amount. But it was nothing like the Wim Hof method. Like this has really been a game changer for me because it's not just focusing on your breath, it's hyperoxygenating the body. And that has huge, huge benefits for the brain, huge benefits for relaxation and things like that, and a calming effect. But it also, again, and this is many, many cultures have talked about this for thousands of years, you focus on the breath, then you're not focused on your thoughts. So it's an easy tool to kind of hack the brain into a meditative state because you're no longer thinking about other things, you're only focused on the breath.
It'd be interesting to see what happens with the San Francisco Giants this year because they hired a mental performance coach. They hired Tewksbury, former pitcher, who was working for the Red Sox. That's a team that has historically had difficult time bringing runners in
And that's mental. I mean, it's not 100% mental, but it's definitely a mental process. They're getting psyched out at the plate. They're swinging for the fences. They're not seeing the ball because they're in too heightened state.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see what happens there.
I mean, there's a lot to it. I mean, the more and more we understand about the brain, I think the more and more it will start positively affecting performance, eventually, whether it's just being able to kind of calm down, collect your thoughts and focus in, kind of get in the zone, or, just recovery from bout after bout after bout.
Are these the steroids of the future?
brain steroids?
Well,
they'll be called steroids.
Steroids.
Yeah.
It
could be.
The coolest things that I'm into are the things that are applicable to everyone. And I've spoken positively about my experiences with psychedelics in the past. Not everybody wants to go that route. Not everyone has access. And, of course, there's that big legality issue, right?
Right.
But the more things that come out, like the Wim Hof method for breath work, Brain FM, making music for the brain, different things that can have an immediate impact on people's lives that are positive, myself included, that's the stuff that needs to trickle down so we all live better, because that's what it's about. Like, that's the obsession is, how do I enhance my quality of life more than anything else?
Absolutely. How'd you meet your hot wife?
My hot wife. This is a great one. I was in a relationship for about 7 years.
I know his wife's hot because we sat next to her at Jesse Burdick's wedding, which was quite amazing wedding. But
yeah, that was an amazing wedding. I felt like a kid in a candy store.
Star-studded cast there. It was crazy.
That was a lot of fun.
That was an awesome table.
World champions, and Mr. Surratt was there and wearing his tight pants, and it was great.
Yeah, it was great. But,
I actually thought, so when I was getting Kelly to do my ceremony, Juliet pulled me aside and was like, you can make Kelly do or say anything here. And I was just like, I was like, could I make him wear like a flowing robe?
I've never seen him sweat so much.
Like flowing robe of some sort. She's like, yes. Make him look like just a white flowing robe like this. Make him put on a toupee and just
Trussell's bishop
absolutely.
Hat. He's got the whole bishop.
Absolutely. I was really tempted to have him do that, but instead I let him wear his tight pants and sweat and marry us.
It was a hot day.
It was.
That was terrible.
He was in the sun.
Yeah, we were both in the sun.
I was sweating in the shade.
Yeah, me too. But it wasn't too bad. And then he did the everybody come in and touch everything. I was just pouring sweat after that.
You weren't sweating though, Mark. I thought you had like a little dehydration or something, or maybe you were
I had a secret going on.
He put it on his head is what he did. But
I was keeping it all in.
Yeah, back to
Ice pack in
Natasha.
his underpants.
Yeah, so Tasha she won the Maxim Ring Girl search. So she became a ring girl for the UFC. And I'd seen her a couple times, thought she was hot, but because I was in a relationship, I'm in a relationship, and I was faithful and all that. And so we went on a tour for the troops. That whole thing. Which turns out to be bullshit if you read Sex at Dawn. That's another story. So we get out there, and we did about 2 weeks in Kuwait and Iraq together on a tour for the troops, like Goodwill style, through Armed Forces Entertainment. And it was me and Mike Swick and her and Amber Nicole Miller. And it was a really awesome time. And because I was in a relationship, like I just treated her like my little sister. I farted in her face. I cracked jokes. But I was myself. And it's funny because if I was single, I would have been so nervous about trying to get a piece or trying to like say the right things that I wouldn't have been myself.
Okay, so you ever watch Walking Dead?
I've seen the first 2 seasons. Then I got shit after that.
So how does somebody walk with the zombies?
They cut their arms off?
Somebody walks with the zombies by rolling around in zombie juice.
Yeah, the blood. Yeah.
Do you get the analogy?
Kind of.
Roll around in some pussy, get some of that stank on you, and it's a little bit easier to get some more.
Oh, that's true, man. Yeah, when you're in a relationship,
that's life lessons right there.
Yeah. I mean, that's it.
That's good. Rub it on like cologne. Get
That's
it on
right.
the wrist.
That's right.
Put it on the neck, behind the ear.
They know when you're desperate. Let's put it that way.
No,
they
that's
know
true.
when you're.
Oh, yeah.
That's a different smell.
They can see it right in your pants.
No doubt about it. But yeah, we had such a blast, and what was the thing that I really enjoyed, because I used to think about this prior to the tour, like, man, if these girls are like regular girls, this is going to suck quick. Because fighters, they're going to be fighters. Right? They're going to crack silly jokes. They're going to be obnoxious. They're going to be a little
gross. Yeah,
a little over the top, a little gross. Yeah, and
a lot gross.
They were like 2 dudes. They were quoting fucking
just
Step
hanging.
Brothers and Anchorman and shit like that. And we had such a good time. And she was going to do the Nike Women's Marathon in San Francisco. And she was like, hey, she hit me up. We were just friends. She was like, hey, I'm coming to town for the Women's Marathon. Is it okay if I stay with you and Kristen? And that was, I was like,
You're like, gulp.
I was like, well, funny story. She broke up with me, but you can still stay if you want. So it was
I'll
cool.
be here.
Yeah, we got to talking, and she ended up not doing that race, but I invited her out for my fight with Stephan Bonner in San Jose, and she flew out with that. Saw him teabag me for 15 minutes. And
she fell in love.
True love
she fell
from
in
there.
love. Yeah, no, it was awesome
Yeah.
because we a couple of my buddies fought on the same card, Ryan Bader and Tom Lawler, and Bader and his wife have a place down in Newport, so they invited us all down to Newport after that. So we had a little road trip together, and we spent an extra 3 days together, and we hit it off.
Awesome.
It's funny. I heard parts of this story the other day. I was out at a local tap room with a couple friends and a friend of theirs, and then a friend of his. And the friend of his was sitting next to me, and he was talking about powerlifting. He said, "Oh yeah, I used to powerlift, and I dropped. I was doing an AMRAP with 225. I dropped it on my chest and hurt myself. I was like, oh, where were you lifting? I said, well, do you know who Dan Green is? I said, yeah, I know Dan. He said, yeah, I met Dan before Dan had the gym, before Dan blew up, all that stuff. So I was like one of the first members at Boss Barbell and whatever. I said, oh, do you know Kyle Kingsbury? And he said, yeah, I know all about him. He just told me this whole story about you meeting your wife and all that shit. Like, it's a really tiny world.
There you go.
Yeah, well, maybe I've told that story too many times.
There you go.
Everybody knows it. Some random guy at the bar, and you're like, I've heard it before.
I've
Shut
heard
your
of
mouth.
Kingsbury.
Yeah.
Before we drop off here, what do you want to pass along to your son?
Man, that's a good one.
Bear.
He's already wearing short shorts, so...
Fanny
Yeah,
pack.
he's naked quite often.
Actually, the family's naked is what
Yeah.
I've noticed from the Instagram.
Yeah, you guys are.
There's two. He has two onesies. One of them that I love is the Jack and Tan, and the other one is it's a printed fanny pack on it.
That's too good.
He's outgrown it, unfortunately, but he can. I've loved athletics my whole life, and it would be a treat if he had similar interests, no matter what they are. But at the same time, I love him. He's my son.
Right.
If he's gay, I love him no matter what, and I'll
Right.
love his boyfriend or husband or whatever it is. If he wants to be a violinist or a pianist, that's cool with me. Like whatever he wants to do, I'm going to support. I think the biggest thing for him is just to fuel his thirst for knowledge, to fan the flames, so that he has an interest in the things that he's interested in. Let him go down that path as long as he wants. Whatever that is.
Awesome. Where can people find you?
Find me on Instagram and Twitter at Kingsboo, KINGSBU. And I'm not really on Facebook, so don't write me there.
Fat Jesse.
Jesse Burdick on all social medias, powerrod.com.
Multiply your hustle, multiply your muscle, and may all your shits be tapered. I'm at Mark Smellybell on Instagram and Twitter. Later.
Somebody stole my script, but shout out to all of our sponsors, 8Man Apparel at 8manstrong.com, bodybuilding.com for all your supplement needs, Compex USA for cutting edge stuff, muscle stim products, howmuchabench.net, bench heavy with no pain, Mark Bell's Slingshot, and The Power Magazine available in print and electronic.
Whoopsie daisy.
I'm the Jim McD on all the social medias. Follow the show on Instagram. We are Mark Bell's PowerCast. We got to get out of here before we break the studio.
Awesome, guys. Thank you.
Please like and share this episode. We'll be back next week with number 200.